historically, every industry at all times is interested in downsizing or becoming more efficient. Now, if the industry is growing, you can achieve efficiency by doing more work or turning out more output with the same people. But if you go back 150 years and look at the percentage of people in farming, for example, farming has downsized from being a very appreciable percentage of the American workforce to a very small percentage, and essentially that's released people to do other things. So it's in the interests of society to get as much output in anything as it can per unit of labor input. It's very difficult on the individual involved, and World Book, we have fewer people than we had a year or two ago, and we don't have any answer to that. Over time, we got out of the textile business. I wish we didn't have to, but we did not know how to run a textile company in New England and compete effectively. Like I say, I love avoiding those businesses, and to the extent we can, we will. I mean, GEICO is going to add people over time, and I think Berkshire Hathaway is going to add people over time. But it is in the interests of society to do jobs more effectively. It's also in the interest of society, it seems to me, to take care in some way of the people that are affected by that activity. And either in some cases it may be retraining, but in other cases, it doesn't work so well if you're 55 years old and you've been working in a textile mill all your life, and all of a sudden the guy that runs the place can't make any money out of selling your output. I mean, that's not the fellow's fault that's been working in the textile mill for 30 years. So we wanted Berkshire to do everything as efficiently as we can. Part of that, in a big way, is not taking on a lot of people we don't need. I mean, a lot of the mistakes that are being corrected now are because people got very fat, and their businesses got very fat in the past and took on all kinds of people they don't need. We see that in a lot of businesses that we're exposed to, and as long as they're very prosperous, really no one does very much about it. And then when time comes, they all of a sudden find out they can get way more output. The oil companies are a classic example. The people probably actually needed to produce, refine, and market oil. Probably hasn't changed that much. But if you look at the employment relative to the barrels produced, refined, and marketed, it's gone down dramatically over 20 years ago. To me, it just means that they weren't being run that well 20 years ago, and it never should have occurred in the first place. We don't want to take on more people than we need in any of our businesses because we don't want to lay people off either. Charlie?
Name a business that has been ruined because it was over-downsized. I cannot think of a single one, but if you ask me to name businesses that were half ruined or ruined by bloat, I mean, I could just rattle off name after name after name. It's gotten fashionable to assume that downsizing is wrong. Well, it may have been wrong to let the business get so fat that it eventually had to downsize. Warren, can you name one that has been ruined by over-downsizing? There must be one, but...
Well, it's like Eisenhower said about Nixon. Give me a week and I'll come up with something.
So this question comes from 3 shareholders who happen to be employees of Berkshire portfolio companies. We are concerned with both the financial condition of the company and the stability of our jobs. Could you discuss your attitude towards the use of layoffs as a means of responding to short-term downturns in company profits?
There's no question that business conditions can change such as to necessitate temporary or permanent layoffs. I mean, there's scales of businesses change. We're fortunate in a place like GEICO where our business is expanding, so we'll probably add at least, I would guess, 1,000 jobs net at a GEICO. But at the same time, we probably have close to half of our brick plants closed in the Southwest because people just aren't building houses now. Now that business will come back and we'll rehire people. On the other hand, our textile business never came back, and we employ fewer people at the Buffalo News than we did a year ago. And we are not going to regain those or get back to previous levels. So there are some businesses that may permanently contract, and you have to face up to that in terms of layoffs. There's other businesses that have severe cyclical type contractions, and they are going to face significant layoffs. There are other businesses that are suffering a little bit during a period like this, but very little, and we will resist the idea of having layoffs. Nobody gets any joy out of it, and generally you do it probably a little too late even, because you keep hoping the business will bounce back up or something of the sort. But if the business changes in a material way, you better change your business model, or somebody else will, and you'll even have more changes facing you. On balance, we hope we get into businesses that don't face those kind of problems. But certainly in our construction-related businesses, we've had layoffs at Shaw, we've had layoffs at Johns Manville, we've had layoffs at Benjamin Moore, we've had layoffs at Acme Brick, and there's really no alternative. I mean, and our competitors all have had also. And in the textile business, but we got into it in 1965. In the end, we laid off everybody. I mean, it had contracted enormously before we got there. We tried all kinds of things, and we finally gave up. Their capitalism, is creative destruction, and sometimes you're on the short end of that. Charlie?
Yeah, some of our businesses have a shared hardship model where they don't lay off, at least not yet. And the businesses with that model tend to be very strongly placed economically. So I guess it shows that Benjamin Franklin was right when he said it's hard for an empty sack to stand upright. And so we were all over the map on that, and so is all of industry. But I do think an ideal model would be a business so strong that it could operate in the shared hardship mode instead of the layoffs.
Today I'm asking for your opinion on Social Security. Shall we call it the government-sponsored Ponzi scheme for retirees? I am interested in your views on private accounts, age adjustments for retirees, and tax adjustments for the employees. What would you promote if you were in the Oval Office? Thank you.
Yeah, the Social Security was introduced in 36 or 37. My grandfather used to have Charlie bring 2 pennies to work at the Buffett and Son grocery store on Saturday in order to pay his share of Social Security. He didn't want Charlie to get any false ideas that there was a free lunch in this world. And he gave him a half-hour lecture on the evils of socialism. So transfer payment by the people who are in their productive years to the people who are past their productive years, and we'll get into definitional terms as to whether it's 65 or 67 now, your past productive years, but essentially it's a transfer payment. I basically believe that anything that would take Social Security payments below their present guaranteed level is a mistake. I think that in this country, extraordinarily rich country, that the people in their productive years can take care of those outside in both areas, even though the ratio of productive to non-productive has changed and is changing. But we take care of our young, and a rich country takes care of its young, and it takes care of its old. And incidentally, in taking care of its young, when we educate 5 children in the family, we don't expect that family to pay 5 times the tax or something like that. We recognize that in taking care of the young, that it should not be based on a per capita basis or based on the size of the family. We provide we try to provide good schools and health and everything for the young overall as part of our overall responsibility. I believe that a rich country should be doing the same for the older people. Charlie and I came into this world wired in a way that enables us to get very, very, very rich far beyond any possible needs we could have. And not everybody's wired the same way. Now, if you come into this world wired with an IQ of 85 or something of the sort, or disabled or whatever it may be, you are not going to do as well in a market economy remotely as well as we do. And when it comes to fighting in Iraq or something of the sort, that becomes an equal opportunity type thing. But when it comes to making a lot of money, it's not equal opportunity in this country. So I believe that a rich country like ours should not give lower benefits than what takes place now. And we've got all kinds of mechanisms for saving that are extremely good. We have 401ks in this country. We have taxes on dividends and capital gains at 15%. So, I would not be doing so well if I were stuck over in Bangladesh or someplace. So this society is providing huge benefits to me that other societies would not. And I think that the obligation for the people who do well in this society is to provide a reasonable level of sustenance for those beyond their productive years. We've got the capability to do it. So I don't want to do anything that hurts the level of the bottom 20 or 30% in terms of their income. I see people living with fear about health care or living with fear about running out of money in their old age. And I think a society should try to minimize the fear that their inhabitants experience. And that doesn't mean just fear of getting mugged or something. It means fear that the last 25 years of their life they're not going to have much income. So I would, and the degree to which the administration or other people are worrying about the deficit in Social Security 25 years out when they have a $500 billion deficit excluding the Social Security surplus now, I mean, it just strikes me as nonsense. I have great trouble with people that say, that the system can't sustain. Right now, 4.5% of our GDP goes to Social Security. 50 years from now, 6%, 6.5%. Well, believe me, our GDP will be far larger 50 years from now, and going from 4% to 6% does not strike me as a terrible prospect. And I would gradually, and we're in the process of doing this, but I would certainly increase the retirement age. I mean, the world in 2005 is much different than the world in 1937 in terms of longevity prospects and the ability to function productively. Charlie, what do you say?
Well, that's the view from Berkshire's Democratic chairman. And the odd part of Berkshire on this issue is that the right-wing Republican who is speaking feels more strongly than Warren that the Republicans are out of their cotton-picking minds to be taking on this issue right now. I do not, if the country is going to get richer at 1 or 2% per annum for a long time ahead, and it's going to have more old people who are living longer and spending money on medical care, the idea that eventually a higher share of GDP would be going through Social Security to retirees and so on that we now have is not anathema. And if the government runs out a little short of money as it gets more Social Security obligations, I see nothing wrong with having some consumption taxes or whatever to pay in a reasonable way for what is a very reasonable expenditure. Social Security is very successful. It's a reward for work. All kinds of people are working in this country because they want to eventually qualify for Social Security. Just as many people are doing dangerous military service because they want the pension that will come eventually. So Social Security is a very capitalistic institution with profoundly good effects. It's one of the most successful things the government has ever done in terms of efficiency and good effects. And in a Republican administration that may shortly have to do something really unpleasant, like face down North Korea or Iran over atom bombs, is wasting its goodwill over some twaddle that a bunch of economists that haven't thought it through properly devoutly believe. It's a very sad occurrence.
The English section of South Korea's grueling college entrance exam, or the Sunyoung, is notoriously difficult, with some students comparing it to deciphering an ancient script. Well, so intense was the criticism around this year's test that the top official in charge of administering it has resigned to take responsibility for the chaos that it caused. Here's a little bit of that paragraph. A video game has its own model of reality. Well, let's speak to someone who's taken the Sunyoung test herself in the past. Professor of Korean Linguistics at Oxford University, Jiun Kia, thanks so much for being with us. I don't know whether you saw that particular question that was featured on our website. Was that one that you could answer?
Yes, I saw that. The article, and I tried to solve it myself, and it was very hard.
Is it always this difficult?
I think it's getting more difficult. I mean, I took the exam 30 years ago, but I think it's sort of now becomes too difficult to the point, like, I'm not sure how much I will get it from this exam.
Why is the level so high?
I think it's because sort of they think about English as a way, or because there's other exams, but they kind of think about English as a way to sort of, best tool to rank students. And in this exam, and, it's very easy to basically distinguish who are the top 1% using English as a tool. So I think this is the way how every year it becomes, the exam becomes more and more difficult, to the point like even native speaker can't really find the right answer.
And what is the significance of passing it? What does it count sort of hugely towards getting into colleges of your choice?
Yes, I think this exam is basically Korean people still, I mean, even in my time, but even now they think this one day, this exam will determine your life, not only your own life, but your family's future. So I think they put so much emphasis and practice drilling to find the best result for this exam.
The amazing work ethic of Korean students is known, of course, in many parts of the world. How has that developed?
We learn how to sort of hardworking is almost like a DNA of South Korean people, and they believe that education is the only asset we have as a nation. So, recently there's been a case that kids as young as 4-year-olds have to take English tests in order to have better results in the Sunyoung exam later. So I think this work ethics, in my days, maybe not in age 4, but now, it's getting much severe and severe, to the point like, even young children have to practice and for the exam. So.
And what is driving that? I mean, is it a shortage of jobs? Is it pressure on very good university places? I mean, why is that built up so much?
Yeah, I think it's sort of also the university, because this exam good result will take you to the best university in South Korea, like Seoul National University or Yonsei University, or these top 3 universities, or the medical school. And they believe that, entering to these universities or medical school will determine your future, your job prospectus and everything. So as a result, it's highly competitive.
And of course, education is changing. We're seeing technology and AI starting to change the whole education field too. Do you think this exam, pardon me, as it stands, will also adapt? Do you think it should change?
Absolutely, I do believe that this doesn't fit. The exam, Sunyoung exam, the highly the competitive exam worked well when we have many children and you have to rank students and to get particular certain point to university. But now the population is decreasing. Also, AI does not require teaching education like this. So I think it's a bit absurd that they have to sit down 70-minute English exam and you have to make one choice over 5, and this is all you do. And that does not actually, I think, make you English better. Rather, it makes you students, the pupils, to have more language anxiety rather than increasing competence. So I think this is very sort of outdated, and this practice or this way of testing English should stop and does not fit in our time, I think.